Late night host Jimmy Kimmel is back on the air after taking the summer off. He's missed a lot. Kimmel says if you're not vaccinated, you shouldn't get a hospital ICU bed. But I'm not sure if Jimmy was being sincere because he wasn't crying. Anyway, it's just funny hearing someone say, "I see you," who nobody actually sees. Look, I don't want to suggest that Kimmel's show has become boring and predictable, but last night during the taping, people in the studio audience were changing the channel.
Picture this. Jimmy Kimmel's easing into his nightly monologue, tossing out recycled dad jokes like a man trying to warm up a cold room with a candle. Then, boom, Greg Gutfeld drops in from orbit. No parachute, just a payload of sarcasm and caffeine. What followed wasn't banter. It was a surgical strike. Gutfeld didn't just roast Kimmel. He turned him into a cautionary tale with a punchline. Imagine a clown car catching fire in Ultra HD slow motion, only funnier, and somehow more tragic. This wasn't comedy. This was demolition. And the crater left behind? That's where Kimmel's credibility used to be.
Worst part about this whole thing is that his presidency is ripe for mockery and ridicule and even gentle humor if you like him. I mean, just Hunter Biden alone, just in the recent stuff, I mean, you could go on forever. But Kimmel has abdicated his role of a comedian. He's now just a political hack. Which I'm grateful for because then I get the turf to myself. I'm not a comedian, but I just filled the gap. That's why I'm beating him every night because he sat there with that guy and basically he spoon-fed him like he was a dementia patient at a...
It started the way many cultural detonations do, with a casual glance and a brutally honest question. Greg Gutfeld looked up, scanned the late-night wasteland, and asked aloud, "Is Jimmy Kimmel still pretending he's funny?" The question didn't need an answer. It was the answer. Because when Gutfeld notices the obvious, he doesn't whisper it, he weaponizes it. In an industry where groupthink is masquerading as wit, Gutfeld's clarity is dangerous. And that's exactly why it's lethal.
I actually said in that thing that, you know, the people who voted for Trump, they just don't know what they've done. You know, they don't realize how badly they've hurt themselves. And so it's not a concern for others that you're seeing with this. It's an expression of ego. That they are smarter than all of these people. And as always, when you're a slave to your ego, it's always somebody else's fault. You know, and therefore, they cannot see their own errors, their own mistakes. You know, if you are open up to being wrong, you're more than likely going to end up right once in a while. But these guys have been wrong for 8 years. They've been wrong for 8 years because they can't let go of their ego.
Once upon a time, Jimmy Kimmel co-hosted a beer-chugging, trampoline-bouncing frat boy fantasia known as The Man Show. Today, he delivers tear-streaked monologues about carbon footprints and voting rights, draped in virtue and velvet. What happened? The glow-up? More like a glitch. And Gutfeld? He saw through the rebrand like a TSA scanner. He didn't just call it out. He opened a sarcasm factory, slapped Kimmel's legacy on the conveyor belt, and let the irony do the rest.
Kimmel cries about cancel culture. Kennedy, in a recent interview, Jimmy Kimmel blames liberal cancel culture of all things and their perpetual manufactured outrage for helping get Trump reelected. He specifically talked about their attacks on comedians. Tonight, Jimmy Kimmel fought back tears while falsely claiming Donald Trump attacked LA firefighters, prompting the LA Fire Department to attach a hose to Jimmy's face.
Kimmel now reads political jokes like a high school senior trying to impress his crush in AP government. Overwritten, undercooked, and painfully self-serious. Meanwhile, Greg Gutfeld slices through the fluff like a chainsaw on espresso. Kimmel's evolution into a sanctimonious sermonizer isn't a career pivot. It's a national eye roll. Once a prophet of flatulence humor, now he plays America's conscience in a suit stitched from Twitter threads and Yelp reviews. And nobody's buying it, except maybe his audience, who applaud like they're being graded.
True, it was a terrible night for women, children, and for the hundreds of thousands of hard-working immigrants who cut his lawn.
It was a terrible night for women, for children, for the hundreds of thousands of hard-working immigrants who make this country go, for healthcare.
Gutfeld didn't just fire a zinger. He curated a buffet of mockery and invited the audience to feast. Jimmy Kimmel, the man whose early career could be canceled by one angry tweet, now parades around like the patron saint of empathy. Greg didn't have to scream it. The hypocrisy practically screamed itself. What followed was a takedown so devastating, it could be taught in marketing classes under How Not to Rebrand. Kimmel used to be edge and energy. Now, he's the comedic equivalent of lukewarm tofu, smug, bland, and pretending to be healthy.
For everyone who voted against him, and guess what? It was a bad night for everyone who voted for him, too. You just don't realize it yet.
You know what? If I ever cry on TV, it'll be because Maroon 5 put out a new song. But that's it! You big Now,
on the Gutfeld show, laughter isn't a political statement. It's genuine. It's dangerous. Gutfeld's satire doesn't just land. It vaporizes. His response to Kimmel's latest sermon wasn't angry. It was scalpel-sharp ridicule. The kind that doesn't shout. It smirks. As Kimmel's ratings swirl downward like a burrito regret on a bad night, Gutfeld is doing the unthinkable. Making late night funny again. No cry-laugh-preach cycle. No Hollywood formula. Just punchlines that punch back.
the killer phrase was at the end when Kimmel said, "You just don't realize it." Because you see, he's smarter than you, and he needs you to know that. And his ego can't bear that there's someone out there more famous and more influential than him. I got news for you, Kimmel. The last time you mattered, Bruce Jenner still had a piece.
Gutfeld didn't just roast Kimmel. He dismantled the entire ecosystem that allows Kimmel to pose as a comic moralist. He mocked the applause breaks, the forced gravitas, the TED Talk masquerading as entertainment. And then he brought the receipts. Kimmel once thrived on edgy bits. Now he cringes at the same jokes he used to write. It's like watching a lion scold the savannah for not being vegan. Gutfeld's core thesis? Kimmel doesn't believe in Jimmy Kimmel anymore. And the audience? They've caught on.
A few names to add. CNN, MSNBC, CBS, The Town Crier. All outlets ignoring Biden's revolving door of gaps. His constant forgetfulness, weird rambling speeches being let off stage. All the while you told us there's nothing to see here. Meanwhile, any parent can see this face means you gotta change a diaper.
Greg Gutfeld doesn't do beige. His comedy is full-spectrum chaos, high-octane irreverence with no need for Twitter's permission slip. In 2025, the most rebellious thing on TV isn't politics. It's humor that actually tries to be funny. While Kimmel delivers nightly lectures ghostwritten by his PR team, Gutfeld builds a clinic of comedy from scratch, fueled by freedom, wit, and not caring if he gets invited to the Met Gala. He didn't just respond to Kimmel. He deconstructed him. And then gift-wrapped the hypocrisy in a sarcastic bow.
Dana, I'll start with you. It was a terrible night for women. Trump won more women. He won the popular vote. What are these people moaning about?
I don't know. I mean, today Brian Stelter tweeted that there was a talent agent who told him that a lot of members of the media are questioning whether they have it in them to cover another Trump cycle. And then they wonder why the working class is like, guys, you are so out of touch with what real work is. And also, they didn't really cover the Biden administration. They didn't cover the border.
Greg didn't have to dig. Kimmel's early career is a time capsule of offensive gold. Crude jokes, bad accents, blackface impersonations. Kimmel wants us to forget. Gutfeld brought the evidence. Alphabetized, laminated, and narrated like a greatest hits album of hypocrisy. Jimmy used to mock everyone. Now he cries mid-monologue over issues he barely Googled. Gutfeld didn't just mock that contradiction, he atomized it. Kimmel cries more than a toddler at bedtime, and with less dignity. The ratings? Cold. The roast? Sub-zero.
Fellas are experiencing deep mental pain. And it's not just them. Journalists are now offering tips to deal with their disappointment, frustration, even fear. And I get it. That's normal after any loss. I'm still mad about losing world's sexiest man to Johnny Depp. But why would people feel fear? Maybe because their only news sources are constantly telling them Trump's going to turn America into Germany. But you know who felt actual fear during the Biden administration? People who had to ride the subway or have to buy groceries.
Watching Jimmy Kimmel scold the country is like your dentist lecturing you on sugar while eating a Twinkie. That's where Gutfeld shines. Not in the insult, but in the exposure. He's not cruel. He's clear. While Kimmel hands out applause lines like candy at a PDA meeting, Gutfeld lands punchlines that make you laugh and think. The satire is scalpel sharp. Kimmel's show? It's a school assembly led by a guidance counselor with unresolved Twitter trauma. And the public noticed. Because Gutfeld didn't roast Jimmy with volume, he did it with timing. And timing is everything.
Up to being wrong, you're more than likely going to end up right once in a while. But these guys have been wrong for 8 years. They've been wrong for 8 years because they can't let go of their egos. It's true in the media. It's actually, it's true among the never Trumper Republicans. If you look at the sourpusses, it's an internal emotional feeling that why him, Trump, and not me? Whether it's like, I don't know, Bill Kristol or Jonah Goldberg. It's like, these are guys that were generally normal. And then their egos just kind of like, they just took it hard.
Jimmy Kimmel clutches pearls and weeps into his cue cards while Greg Gutfeld wins the ratings war by doing something radical. Being funny. Late night has become a graveyard of jokes that never lived. Kimmel walks through it like a grief counselor for comedy. Gutfeld. He throws a party on the tombstones and brings a kazoo. He doesn't just mock Kimmel. He highlights the whole broken system. The fake gravitas. The scripted empathy. The laugh signs glowing in desperation. Greg didn't need a debate. He needed Jimmy to keep pretending. Because that alone was enough to destroy him. No yelling. No confrontation. Just Gutfeld, a smirk, and a monologue with a body count.